What's up and welcome to Idle Insights, a show where each week I, Treavor Bettis, talk to interesting people about idle champions and Dungeons and Dragons. And with me this week is Kate Welch. Hello!
Hi. Wow, you're right. That intro does go fast.
I does go fast. I don't know. Sometimes I'm worried that I'm just gonna like trip over my feet and just face first into just whatever words come out of my mouth. But
Yeah.
somehow it's been fine so far. But hello, welcome to the
Hey,
show.
thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I've been working with y'all for years and years and years. This is
It's,
so cool.
it's true. We had a coloring sheet of Rosie and
Yeah,
everything. Like, yeah, we've
right.
been
I
yeah.
remember. Yeah, my baby girl.
And we are, of course, here today to talk about Rosie. But before that, Kate, if there's somehow someone in the chat who doesn't know who are you for those fine folks?
Oh, sure. Well, in the World of Idle Champions, I play Rosie Beestinger on Acquisitions Incorporated, the C team on Painting Arcade. Our show went for about 5 years, and we no longer stream regularly, but we still talk every day and hang out, and I love them so much. So we still, I think, make the occasional live show appearance at PAX. Um, right now, I am a narrative director for video games. I've been a video game developer 12 years now. And I was a game designer for a time on Dungeons and Dragons. I think I'm in the credits for Dungeon of the Mad Mage, or Mordenkainen's might be my first credit, and then my final credit was Rime of the Frost Maiden, and I worked on
Oh
everything
wow,
in that period of time. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Those are some
yeah,
good books.
they are. They
Got
are.
them all here. I should mention before we get started, chat, we are live right now. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat with question colon and then your question. Our awesome mod Gabe, grab them, put them in a little text doc, and we'll talk about them later. We'll also be doing a giveaway halfway through the show, so keep an ear out for that, and we'll let you know what keyword to put into chat to get a chance to win 42 chests of your choice, excluding Bahamut chests. Well, Kate, I want to start things off the way that I like to on this show with the icebreaker question of how'd you get into D&D?
Sure. So when I was 18, I worked at a coffee shop, and I remember I was bringing drinks back to these boys who sat in the back, and I know that they were playing D&D, but they would get really quiet when I went back there, and so I think that they were just like shy maybe, but the message that I got from that experience was that like I wasn't welcome in the D&D space.
Mm,
But I've been doing role play by that point online in the Star Wars context since I was like 13. And
wait,
so I
like
was
in
like,
like AOL ones?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
also how I started.
No shit.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Small world.
Those were wild times.
It was so good. It was so much fun. I loved that world so much. And I got to understand what role playing meant to me and really like grow up with it. Like I started in single sentences with no punctuation kind of role
Yeah.
playing. And I moved to like multiple paragraphs and like writing short stories about my characters and everything, as I'm sure you did. So yeah, I had been doing that. And I didn't know what D&D was, and I didn't know how much I would have loved it based on what my interests at the time. But that was my first exposure. The way I got into playing was I finally got sick of someone inviting me to play in their D&D game and decided, you know what, I'm just gonna put my own group together. Can
Hmm.
we swear on this?
No, we keep it PG-13, but you know what? That's our one.
Right. Sorry.
Sorry, I should have
Worth
mentioned
it.
that before the
It's worth
show.
it. So yeah, I put together a super group of friends and coworkers and the best dungeon master, and we played together for like 2 years in 3.5, I think. And then randomly, I remember I was at a Child's Play charity dinner. Jerry Holkins asked me if I roll dice. He and I had never really spoken before up to that point, but he walked up to me. He was like, "I hear you know how to roll dice." And I was like, "Yeah."
Sounds
I,
very Jerry
I,
Holkins.
I think what I said was, "Yeah, I've been known to roll the bones," which is not a cool response. And then he was like, "Cool," and he walked away. And I was like, "Mm." And then a month later, I got an email asking me if I wanted to be on the Inc. Weekly spinoff show. So that's
Oh
how I started playing fifth
wow.
edition. Yeah, yeah, it was real weird audition process. But I got on the show and I played fifth edition and I fell in love with it. And I think by the end of our first year was when they were hiring for a game design position. And I was like, you know what? I was a UX designer in video games. I was like, I don't know if this is going to translate, but I applied and interviewed and I got it. And so that's how I became a game designer on D&D and how it really took over my life. It totally goes back to, I think I give Jerry so much credit from Penny Arcade for changing my life by asking me to be on the show.
That's so cool. So you hadn't played fifth edition before that. Like you went from 3.5 to that.
Yeah.
That's
it's a leap.
yeah, a little bit, a little bit. I mean, at least you didn't have fourth edition and they're like confusing it more. Like
No,
I love
I've
fourth
learned,
edition, but it's very different.
and when I think about when I understand fourth edition is a uh less popular edition, we'll say, but I understand why they tried what they did, and I love
Yeah,
that they tried it.
yeah,
Like video games, MMOs were so big. Like let's try to emulate the success of this and see if that works. And it was an experiment, and ultimately not the most successful experiment in D&D's history. But I don't know. I don't think they could have gotten a fifth without fourth.
yeah. Well, and like to that point, like about the MMOs being popular at the time, like that was when I'd first gotten into WoW. Was when someone was just like, "Let's try fourth edition," and that was really when I was like, "Oh, I understand this. I see where this is going. Now this all clicks."
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep.
But I had to get there before I could do fifth edition because now
Totally.
everything's better.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you some appreciation for fifth edition.
Yes, exactly. Like I said earlier, we're here to talk about Rosie Beestinger. Who is Rosie?
Oh, look at her. Um, my little girl. She's a halfling monk. She is, I think at this point, the canon, I think she's 110 years old. She's ish. She got de-aged by Chris Perkins and as a whole thing. But she's exceptionally old. She used to be a mob boss, like a halfling mob boss, which was not as scary as you think. It's stuff like my neighbor's stealing my tomatoes, and she's like, I'm gonna stuff his mailbox full of bees or whatever. Like that kind of stuff. Like she wasn't running drugs or anything.
Yeah.
But halflings all became very afraid of her. And at some point, running this like mob empire, she was like, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if this is the thing. So she goes off to become a monk has her, I don't know, sixth act in life. She runs off to this monastery and becomes a monk and starts following the way of shadow and trains up there for a while. She is also very fond of adopting children. She runs many orphanages, which was actually inspired. I remember reading before Rosie was created. I read this article about the Yakuza and how they are a fearful organization, but in some communities, like so many mob enterprises, they're kind of beloved because
Yeah.
they're funneling their ill-gotten gains into these tax shelters, which just so happen to be orphanages, And so I was like, oh, that's good. That's good. So I think that was a huge inspiration for Rosie. And so she runs a lot of orphanages. She loves to adopt. She has like 300 kids. Some of them are biologically hers, but most of
Hmm.
them are adopted for one reason or another. And it ended up being a great sort of premise for our guests who wanted to come on the show. We'd be like, you have the option of playing one of her many adopted grandchildren, and then that folds you into our. So we had a few people come on playing her kids, and then there was the fans started making their own Beestinger. So there's like a Beestinger family tree out there
Oh,
with
I love
people's
that.
actual Beasties. It was so cool. It was so cool. I just like Rosie ended up being like a very therapeutic character for me in a lot of
Oh,
ways.
that's good.
Yeah, she's
I,
great.
I honestly, because of that whole thing with her adopting and having this huge family, everything gave me one of my favorite things I point to as a example of a guest appearance on a show, which is Pat Rothfuss
Mhm.
coming on. At that, I was working in a dead end office job at the time, and I was listening to that while I was working, and I could not stop laughing with the two of you interacting because it was just some of the funniest stuff I'd ever heard in a live game.
He and I are we knew each other very well, and so like
Mhm.
yeah, I knew he was going to play my kid, and that was literally all we planned. So all of it was just like our actual interactions with each other.
Like
Yeah.
I could still perfectly hear Pat in my head just going, "God, it's so good."
I know Drew Beestinger. He's a legend.
Well, so you talked a little bit there about like the Yakuza story coming in and helping figuring out how Rosie was. But like, I want to know like where did the inspiration for Rosie come from? Like when you were asked like, hey, we're gonna do this offshoot game of Ack Inc. We need you to make a character. Like where'd you go with that?
So I I was thinking about the kind of characters that I never get to see in fiction in general, but definitely in D&D. And you rarely get to see like a little old lady. And little old lady has become more of a trope now, like little bitch and old lady. But back then it wasn't as much. And so I was like, okay, I definitely want to play a little old lady who's very powerful and strong. I as so many of us do, struggle with the concept of being old, getting older,
Mm.
and losing out on the things that I rely on now. And so I wanted to play a character who had somehow dodged that inevitability, and that she was, if anything, still extremely strong and vital. Part of Rosie's character is that she's like she's she's old, but she's like kind of a hot slut still too, you know? And so like that was another big thing for me and still is like you become so invisible as you become an older
Mm.
woman. And I didn't want that for her. I wanted, and Jerry just played into it beautifully. Like
Yeah.
anytime Rosie was like, "What's up?" He was like, "Oh no, her charisma is definitely winning over hearts and minds." Like I love that he let her have that. So that was where her like age and class came from. I wanted her to be old and strong and powerful. Um, I also have all D&D characters are a little bit therapy, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh
in
yeah.
this in the like aging sense, it was therapeutic, but also in her maternity, like she is this mother figure, the grandmother figure, not your grandma's grandma type thing.
Hmm.
But she got to she allowed me to channel my own maternal feelings of like nurturing and caring for and being concerned about and being a little bit extra with my friends because I love those people so much.
Hmm.
And with Rosie, I was able to express that in a way that wouldn't make them all make fun of me. Or if they did, they were making fun of her.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening, of course, is that those maternal feelings and caregiving ended up becoming real for me too. So like I bake them birthday cakes and I bring them presents from when I go travel. Like and I've that's been so gratifying for me. And that's
Hmm.
extended out to a lot of other friends too, of like I get to be this mom that I don't have kids, I have pets.
Yeah.
So I want to take care of people sometimes too. And so I get to do that because Rosie helped me figure it out.
I
So
love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I've always
That's
been kind
so
of
sweet.
like my interests in my job are very like male dominated and masculine. And
Hmm.
so like the softer sides of my personality have always been things that I felt like I needed to hide or make fun of in myself.
Mm.
I don't feel that way anymore. So
Good.
yeah.
I love that,
Yeah.
and I'm so happy that helped
I
you out with
know.
that.
Help me be soft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. So you were just talking about the her being motherly towards the rest of the team. How was her time with the C team?
Oh, it's great. I think she I didn't know, you never know your character very well when you first start playing them. So like those early days and weeks with the C team, um, I didn't know how to play her, and I also didn't know how to do her justice because in my mind she was so clever and she'd seen so much. And when we started playing this game, I think I was 33. I'm certainly not 120 or whatever she was when we started. So I had trouble keeping up with her. And so and that was really frightening. But by the end, like we all are this family. They are a bunch of like to varying degrees, either extremely competent or extreme idiots. And Rosie's the same, right? So we
Yeah.
kind of figured out, we were able to sort of suss out based on the context of the game and the place that we were in, who was going to be a leader, who was going to be a follower, and that sort of like that natural thing. It's also different when you're doing this for an audience, right? Like
Yeah.
there's, which I know we're going to talk about, I think, but the concept of like how do we play D&D in a way that is true to form, like true to the actual game, feels like a home game with friends, but also is entertaining and has a compelling plot line and characters and things. It's more difficult than you would think.
Oh
And
yeah.
except for the people maybe in the chat who've attempted it, you know how difficult it is. But yeah, it's a lot more. I've played so many home games now, and I'm so relieved to be a part of that because I'm like, God, there's just so little pressure
Mm.
compared to trying to do this. And like, if we want to pick up an NPC and play with him for a while and then leave him behind, there's not like, what happened to that NPC? You know, like nothing. We lost interest and the DM gave us something else to do, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just the not worrying about the continuity and the plot and the theme and the mood and the tone and picking up every plot line that you drop. Like
Hmm.
it's nice. It's nice. And not to say that C Team was necessarily
Yeah.
comprehensive about picking up our plot lines, but you did feel that way of like, was this an entertaining enough show? Did we do enough? Did we even roll the dice? You know,
Mm.
like did we play enough D&D for this D&D show? And by the end of it, of course, we're barely rolling dice. We're just
Mm.
Jerry winds us up. He drops us in a dollhouse, and we're like, "Ugh, who wants to be a part of our shit? What's that? Let's go look at them. Let's ask them questions. Let's see what they're about." Like we're which is every great D&D group. Like you know you're in a good group, and the DM's like, "Okay, you're in a tavern," and that's really all they need to say.
Yeah.
You just take care of it from there. That's good shit. That's good shit.
It's wild because like these games are so like you read the rule books and everything. I mean, you even read the adventure books and they're so focused on like this is what the role is for this is that. Like
Yeah.
it assumes you are going to be rolling dice all the time. I genuinely remember like the first TTRPG session I ever had where we ended it and everyone just had this moment of like we didn't roll dice tonight,
Yeah.
and we all just like kind of laughed about it, and but it was like one of our favorite sessions we'd had up to that
Mhm.
date. And so there is this like interesting thing. It's like as much as the dice are needed, that moment you don't use them is better than using them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there are some diceless systems out there. I haven't played with too many of them because I still like the
Oh
randomization of
yeah.
not knowing how an outcome will be. But yeah, that's a longer conversation, but it is very, very, very
It's
fascinating
true. It's
subject.
true. But yeah, I always do like to like when it comes to like groups and stuff like that. Like, what did Rosie think of her party? Like especially in those like first few episodes. Like, what was her initial impression of them?
Um, Rosie, Rosie, I don't think it's more, I think that the question might be more about how was Kate doing with the
That's
rest of those
fair.
people? Because Rosie, I didn't know who Rosie was, and they also didn't know who they were yet, right? So we're
Yeah.
still trying to like we built our characters and we did a session 0, but we didn't do a lot of character building together, like as a group. All of that's live. Like you
That's
can
all. Wow.
watch the characters evolve together live.
Yeah.
And I'd never played fifth edition. I'd never been on a show like this. And everybody at that table is so fudging funny. Um, and they like I was super intimidated for the first season almost. I think the whole thing because I was like I can't hang with these people. They're too funny. They're too witty. They're too good at this game. You know, like I felt really weird. They were all intimately connected with Penny Arcade, and I was kind of an outsider.
Mm,
So they knew each other quite well. I think they were even at the time maybe all working in the same office every day, and I wasn't, you know. So
okay.
I felt like I didn't know my place, and I think that is sort of how Rosie felt for a little while too. Um, but it's because Jerry's just such a wonderful DM that I was able to figure out like, okay, Rosie is this. She is serious until she's not. She is sometimes the de facto leader of the group because they're all, emotionally or physically so much younger than she is, and so she's kind of got to like keep them on track. But also there are times when she cuts loose and she's the goblin, and those times were really fun as well. Yeah, I don't know if I don't Rosie, I think it took me a while to figure out who Rosie was in that group. And the reason I'm being really candid about that is
Oh yeah.
because I want people to know that that's normal, right? Like to not know for the first few sessions for it to just not feel like anything, like you're not gelling, especially if there's newbies in the group or whatever, because Ryan had never played D&D at all before that
Yeah.
first session. So people still trying to figure it out, like you got to give it time. I know there's probably nobody in this chat or watching this VOD who's like never played D&D before, but just in case you have that experience, it could take a long time to gel. But as long as it's fun while you're gelling, you don't have to know who your character is on day one. In fact, it's better if you don't.
Yeah.
I now come to the table with basically my character class and an accent, and that's it. And I figure out the rest on the fly. It's for real.
Yeah, I do fully agree with that because it's also setting that expectation that no one else is setting for you. Like I don't think anyone
Mhm.
at the table is expecting you to instantly be your character and to
No.
have that expectation on yourself there. That like that's just beating yourself down before you even get to the table.
Exactly. Yeah. And thinking like, okay, I've got it here. She's a chaotic good and she is a shadow monk and she's an old lady and I have to make sure I hit all those tropes. But like she's gonna evolve to be more than that stuff. And I one of the best pieces of advice I ever saw about alignment was that an alignment is like alignment is dictated by your actions, not the other way around. So
Mm,
like that it's an option. It's an optional way to
yeah,
play. But definitely if it helps you keep your character in line, you're like, what would a chaotic good person do in this situation? That could be really, really helpful guidance. But if you're like, I feel like my character would do this and it's not part of their alignment, then their alignment's allowed to change.
yeah,
Like that's part of a character arc. Your character
yeah.
doesn't have to be chaotic good forever. So yeah, I think I really like that piece of advice. I wish I could remember who said it, but it's helped me quite a bit feel like less constrained by my character sheet, especially in those early days.
I'm sitting here right now, and for the first time this year, like I'm player only. Like I'm usually the forever DM, and I found myself as a player in two separate games. And I'm sitting here going like, I don't think I know what their alignment is right now. Like if I had to guess, I don't know if I would get it right
There you go.
because
That's
like
cool.
yeah, because like it alignment's one of those things. I'm like I understand why it's there mechanically. I don't generally adhere to that when I'm playing because I'm like I'm trying to figure out this character in this moment. I'm going to go with what I think is what they would do and also what is going to make a good story. And I don't need two little words figuring that out for me.
That's the other thing I found about role play in general. I do a different kind of role play. Primarily right now, I'm really into this like Red Dead Redemption 2 role playing, like private server stuff where
Oh,
it's
whoa.
all it's all like team speak, directional audio, and so you're like playing a character vocally and rolling around
That's so
in a Red
cool.
Dead 2 server. And I've been having so much fun with it. But one of the things that I have come to understand, and this is true for D&D, I think this is true for all role playing, kind of exactly what you just said, which was doing it for the story. I think
Yeah.
that's hard for people to figure out. Like, do it for the plot and to understand that like these games are not about winning. There are so many games out there if you want to play
Mm,
them that are about
yeah.
winning. Like, go play a game that's about winning. That's literally all the rest of them. But but in role playing, it is about creating an experience for everybody else in the table or in the scene with you. And that has nothing to do with you winning or being the most badass or the wittiest or the funniest or like anything like that. There's no win condition except that everybody else has a good time.
Yes.
And I think if we all approached role play from that really selfless place, including you, everyone's game is just going to be elevated by that.
Yeah. There's that meme that went around for so long where it's just like, oh, you'd make a non-optimal decision just for the story. It's just like absolutely every time. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes,
like
of
I
course.
will always do that because if it's gonna make a good story, that's what I want. Like
Mhm.
that is what I crave when it comes
Totally.
to these games.
Yeah,
Uh
and I think a D&D may even like suffer from the fact that so much of it is dice related and math related because that does make you want to be optimal
yeah,
when
it
it
does.
relies on the math. So I think that's another reason why we just rolled so few dice by the end of the C team is like we're not interested in the optimum and also combat is its own thing. I have a whole beef with D&D combat that we don't need to get into, but yeah, I think that's pretty major. That the
Yeah.
part the fact that like that the number go up, me do more, and everybody go ooh. Like that feels good. That feels
Yeah.
good.
I do feel bad when I'm talking to my friends who like definitely are the min-maxers and stuff because they'll come
Mhm.
to me, they're like, "Oh, I made this build. It does all this. It's gonna do this much damage and everything." I'm like, "Okay." Like I can't get as excited as you. I'm sorry. Like I'm like, what does that bring
Yeah.
to the story? Do you have a story reason for that happening? I'm
Yeah.
interested in that.
I know, no shade.
Oh
Maybe
yeah, yeah.
maybe it is shade, but it's just not my favorite way to play.
Yeah.
I love telling stories, man. I just love it. And the best groups I've ever been a part of have been able to your point, make it make sense why they're so good and their numbers are so high and that they make a story out of combat, but they flavor it and it's not just the math comparing numbers kind of a thing. I
Hmm.
think you can still make combat fun and story driven if you try.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to talk a bit about the live games because they're one of the things that like Acquisitions Incorporated got so well known for. They had the podcast back in the
Mhm.
day, and then it moved into those. But knowing that like that was the first like C Team is the first time you're playing fifth edition and doing a stream. Like, what was that like the first time you went on stage to play?
Oh, live game?
Yeah.
I think our first live show was also our first time in our costumes. And so
Oh.
I have this like photo documented pretty extensively backstage as we're all getting into our costumes. And then um before we went out, I just started crying. Like
Oh.
ruined my makeup. Because we've been doing the show for a little over a year at that point, and I had already gotten a tattoo for this game.
Oh.
And so I was like, I want to remember this forever. I loved every second of this experience, and it's so like once in a lifetime kind of a vibe. So we get out on stage, we're backstage, we're about to go on. I see everybody in their costume, I just lose it. Sorry, I did it
It's okay.
again. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
I
No
swear.
worries. No
Swear to
worries. You're good.
we'll fix it in post. Um, and and uh, and then yeah, like on stage when the adventure ended. I teared up again. I didn't want it to be super dramatic. I was trying to not to, but it was a really special experience. And then and like getting in front of an audience and seeing
Yeah.
them enjoy it and react live when all it had been was us. There's no audience in that studio.
Hmm.
There's just the cameras staring at you. So yeah, it was really special and extremely addictive. Extremely addictive. Yeah.
And you eventually ran I can't remember. I know one specifically at Revel's End, but like how is that getting behind the screen in front of
Oh my
an
God,
audience?
dude. So I've DM'd for a few big crowds at this point, but the Acking game, I think it was 2022. Um, it was right after a game that I had DM'd where like my confidence was just in the toilet about
Hmm.
being a DM. And I was like, man, I suck at this. I need to never do it again. This was garbage. My players didn't have fun,
Mm, been
whatever.
there.
It's not good. Um, and then they asked me to DM for Ack Inc. And I was like, okay, all right, this is gonna, this can be it.
Yeah.
If I can't, if this one doesn't go well, um, but that was crazy, dude. Like that was crazy. Ack Inc. I didn't mention this when you asked me how I got into D&D, but the reason I knew about fifth edition, not fifth edition, but like the reason I put together the group of people when I did, which was 2011 or something when we were playing 3.5. The reason I did that was because I had gone to a PAX and I had seen Ack Inc. live on stage with
Oh
the
wow.
original crew. And I was like, this is it. I want to have that much fun with my friends.
Yes.
That was the impetus for me. And so I was like, okay, uh, then they asked me to be on the show. Then they asked me to DM the main stage game. And I was like,
Wow.
this is like you just are a big enough fan of something.
Yeah.
And then this happens, I guess.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
so massive for me, dude. I was like, this is crazy. And I like until that point, I've DM'd for so many people
Yeah.
and I've gotten to do crazy like travel the world DMing I love that this has happened to me, but this has happened to me because of Acquisitions Incorporated. So to be on stage, getting to be behind that screen and DM for these people, I was like, damn, dude. Kate, what's up? And it was a great game. And
Yeah, it
I
was.
totally I got my groove back. And
Yeah.
I've been fine ever since. I
That's
think
awesome.
it's all about your group, man.
Yeah.
It's all about the players and to be obsessed with them, to be obsessed with your player group, to be obsessed with their PCs, and to make sure like you do everything in service of them having a great time. That's all it is. That's all being a DM is.
Yeah.
Easy.
100%. I do want to say real quick, we're going to be doing a giveaway here in a moment. Our awesome mod Gabe is going to put a keyword into the chat. Just put that keyword as it is into chat. You'll be entered for a chance to win 42 chests of your choice, excluding Bahamut chests. You get some Rosie chests if you want to. And we probably should mention here, Rosie had a new skin recently, the
Yeah.
venture casual one.
I love it. It's so much fun to work with you guys on this. Like this sketch came to me and I was like, dude, this is basically perfect.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. It's fine.
Lauren's just gonna edit those words out of the mod. Thank you, Lauren. But yeah, no, it's so good. I love having like an old lady to decorate in this. I love it. I love it. And I love bees. Like Rosie has been I cannot tell you how many like bee related gifts people have given me, which is such a humble brag. Like, oh my God, my fans give me stuff. But people like send gifts and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I have so much bee pins and bee jewelry and all this like bee stuff, and it never got old. I still love bees.
I love it.
I love bees. I want bees everywhere. I love bees. that also helped me solidify. I wasn't into bees especially before Rosie, but sure am now.
There you go. There you got your theme.
Okay.
Well, while everyone in chat has put in that keyword, why don't you tell me about Quests in Whiskey?
Oh, I'd love to. So Quests and Whiskey is the brand that I have started with my husband and the actor Matthew Lillard, who I know through Dungeons and Dragons. And my husband is Tyler Jacobson, who's done a lot of the covers for 5th edition and is an incredible fantasy artist. And so the story is Matthew and I had played D&D together a couple times and we got along great. We'd been on some panels. He's just the most wonderful man. And very funny and and extremely loving, like just loves everybody, and very genuinely. I've met a lot of Hollywood people at this point. And I can tell the difference. This man loves everyone and he's so enthusiastic about life. Anyway, so I'm a big fan. He calls me up one morning and I see his name on my phone. I was like, sorry, Tyler, I have to take this call. Hollywood's Matthew Lillard is on the phone. Sorry, excuse me. Hello. And he's like, hi, can I speak to your husband?
No, my gosh.
Yep. After I had been such a shit. And so, yeah.
You couldn't write that better. That's so good.
Sorry. So I hand the phone over to him and it's Matthew pitching Tyler on being basically the art director of this project, this Quests and Whiskey.
Wow.
And Tyler talked to him for a while and he hung up and he seemed really excited, but he was like, I don't know. I'm so busy and I don't know if I have time for this. And I was like, dude, I don't know if this kind of opportunity is going to come ever again. Like you're going to learn so much and you get to work with Matt Lillard, who's a sweetheart. Like who could say that? I just do it. Who cares? Damn the torpedoes. And he was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And so he started working really intensively on top of the rest of his work. He starts designing this bottle for this whiskey. And I think probably a year into the process, I'd had major FOMO because I'm like looking over the shoulder, he's sending me these like bottle sketches and designs that he's doing. And he's telling me about the first 4 bottles that they want to do. They want to do like 4 years worth of bottles in the first 4. And it's like, oh, this is so nerdy. I want to do it. How do I do it? But I kept it to myself. I'm busy too, whatever. Then they emailed me about a year into this process and they were like, hey, we think we want to include in each box of Quests and Whiskey, we want to include a chapter of a fantasy story about the character who is represented on the bottle. And I was like, yes, okay. So now we're in business. So yeah, our first 4 releases, we've already shipped one. It was Quests and Paladin. We sold out twice, which is great. Matt was so worried. He's like, what if D&D fans don't like whiskey? And I was like, buddy, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. So we sold out twice. And that was, so we're out of Paladin, which was our first bottle. It was very well received. We're really, really pleased with it. The story was super fun to write. So it's about this paladin, this gladiator named Saren. She was born into slavery in this gladiatorial pit, and the story starts with her the day she wins her freedom at the age of 21. So she's been like fighting in this pit since she was literally a
Yeah.
babe in arms with her parents who were also slaves in the pit. So she is favored by the god of life, who of course also governs death. And so the story is about her right now. She's lost her connection to her god. I'm not gonna, no spoilers, but if you, well, hopefully we're working on making this available, even if you haven't gotten a bottle of the whiskey. Hopefully
Cool.
we'll be up online for everybody to read soon, since whiskey sold out. But our next three, our next character is going to be Rogue. Then after that, it's Warlock, and after that, wrapping up the year is Dragon. So we are trying to create this whole original IP and story. We're creating new like species that are still like within a fantasy setting, but it's not licensed by D&D, so we're not doing
That's what I was
anything.
gonna ask, because you're talking about
No,
the
we're not.
god and stuff like that. Like, were you given free reign to like world build her, or did you work with people on it?
Mm-mm.
Oh
No. Yeah.
wow. Oh, okay, that's so cool.
It's the coolest.
Whoa.
Like Tyler had been sketching this character, and we had been brainstorming about it already, so I already had this character in my
Oh my
head.
gosh.
We're just building a world, and it's like it's this weird challenge because it's all episodic, right? And I haven't
Yeah.
written all of it yet, but Paladin's already out there. So like whatever I said in Paladin, that's
Yeah.
set in stone. I won't
That
be able to go back
there's
and
the
edit
canon.
that. Yeah. So like I can't go back and like if I'm like, oh shit, this would have been great if I could have like planted this seed earlier on.
Oh
Nope,
yeah.
won't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So we are really just like kind of flying by the seat of our pants with this story. But on Monday, Matt and the rest of the company flew up to Seattle, and we had this huge brainstorm session, creatively just like banging out the rest of these characters, at least for the first couple of years.
Hmm.
We've got a sketch for the last several years, and it's going to be great. There's
That's
there's at
so
least one
cool.
character. We were talking earlier about how you made someone cry with your writing. There's one character I hope to make people cry. Maybe two, but definitely one.
Hey.
One of these
you
characters, people are gonna cry.
you thought you were just getting whiskey, but you got emotions.
You get emotions. Yeah, yeah. I want you to be sobbing into your glass of whiskey.
That's so good. I didn't know that I'm kind of mad at my friend right now because he bought one of these bottles, and he didn't tell me that there was a story involved in it. Now I want to read that.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was really fun.
It,
And Rogue is done. The story for that's
oh,
done.
cool.
That was even more fun. Starting on Warlock now. So yeah,
Ooh, I love a warlock.
it's great. It's really fun. I've just had such a blast, and I've never had so much creative freedom in my
That's
life.
awesome. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I love world building and stuff like that, and so like you just get to like who would ever think it's like where do I get to world build for? Oh, whiskey.
Out. But I think that's part of the freedom. We were talking earlier too about uh, the perfect formula for me creatively is very low oversight, but very high expectations.
Hmm.
That's like the sweet spot for me creatively. That's for sure the case with this.
Yeah,
Like they let me write whatever I want. They just expect it to be excellent.
yeah, yeah.
So I just do that.
It's a
And it doesn't
perfect
really,
storm.
yeah, like they're like really involved in the crowd. Like we were doing this big brainstorm, and they're like talking about my world like it really matters. They're like, okay, but you've got this, so you've got this god and these clerics, and then if this, and I'm like, yeah.
Man,
Yeah, tell me to give me more ideas about the world that I'm inventing by the seat of my pants. Great.
that is such a wild experience that I can't even fathom. Just like talking with a group of people about stuff that you've created originally.
I
Because like
know.
you know, like I you know we're in here and I'm just like, yeah, I'll just have them in say something funny.
Yeah,
But like it's a whole different ballgame when it is all you. That's
right.
wild.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. I'm extraordinarily lucky. And Quest End, I believe we're about to announce the pre-sale for Rogue.
Ooh.
So Wow, you can get on the mailing list at questsandwhiskey.com if you
I'm
are
not
over
going to
the
that
age of
website
21.
right now.
No youngins allowed, please. But yeah, everybody over 21, please do get on our mailing list. It's wonderful. And we've got this High Rollers Guild. If you buy a year in advance, which I think is already done, but we have this tier where people bought the whole year and they get special tastings over Zoom with Matt and our blender Ale, and the rest of us. So we're doing these like cool Zoom calls with the folks we're doing one tonight.
That's
Very fun.
cool.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. So we
I
get to
love
sip
it.
on our whiskey and talk about it. And yeah, it's been great. It's been great. It's such a good time.
Whiskey talk. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's good.
Uh,
Good gig.
well, we've been getting some questions while we've been talking, so let's
All
see what
right.
we got going on over here. This is from Ainley Master. Oh, any chance we could get a season focused on the C team and Morgaine? They need some love because we just did the season with Acquisitions Incorporated.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be definitely a cool one to do. Get the everybody in there with some upgrades and whatnot,
Yes,
and
please.
more skins because
Yes, more
we need more
skins.
bees.
Oh, anything with bees. I know she has a bee costume. And she's very cute in it. So make sure you pick that up if
Oh
you have
yeah,
a
that's right. Both Rosie and Strix have the Beestinger
the bee stinger
costumes. Yeah,
costumes. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Um, Cassius335 says, question, anyone else finding it slightly erotic that yesterday, oh yeah, that's right. Holly was actually on our show Sketching Hour yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And so they said that ironic that yesterday Holly confirmed that Strix is still in Hadar's clutches, and today we've effectively have her mom on here. Hopefully whatever Rosie exists in the Idle Champions Presents timeline has at least been told. Yeah, so Holly was playing Strix in an Isle Champions Presents,
Mhm.
and she kind of got consumed by Hadar, and is, I guess, still
Yeah.
being held there.
Yeah, that makes sense because at the Ack Inc. main stage game, there's like a whole new Strix who's there, who is very different from Strix
Oh
Beestinger.
yeah,
So
that's right, the Greyhawk one. Yeah.
yeah, totally. So yeah, I don't know if Rosie's been told about that, but I have a feeling Rosie would mobilize immediately on that.
Move
So
heaven and earth.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And let's see. Cassius335 has another question, which is with those new glitch skins in mind. So I'll preface this. Have you looked at all the Planescape adventure that came out recently?
Yeah, I've been through it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we took the glitch thing with it
Mhm.
and put it onto the champions. So we've actually changed up a few champions now where it's
Cool.
them in their different forms. So like Lauren, our awesome producer, has Orkira, who's a dragonborn, and she got changed into a half elf.
Cool.
And so the question is, does Kate have an idea of alternate species slash classes for Rosie if that were to
Ooh,
happen? Like, what if Rosie were to have a glitch, what would you want to see her
a
become?
glitch. Oh my gosh. Um, I think that I don't know. I would want her to become something significant to one of the other party members. Um, so like uh some kind of like dragonborn, I think would be really fun because she and Dinar are so close. Um, but also becoming a druid, um,
Oh.
well, not really bad. But also becoming some kind of warlock, like a
Well,
like
I mean,
yeah.
actually, like Swarm Druid though, like just
Oh yeah,
having the bees come in force would be kind of neat.
I love that. Yeah, I think that Rosie's story is it's just nothing without the rest of the team. So anything glitch related, I would make sure I would make to them emotionally.
I love
That's
that. It's just, I do love that. It's just like, mess with them emotionally, whether for good or bad. I feel like that's how my feeling on just being a DM. It's like, I want you to
oh
have
yeah,
feelings. They might be good, they might be bad. We'll see
that-
where we go.
that's okay. Either way, yeah, you can have 'em. If you feel nothing, I have failed.
Right, right, 100%. Um, So I actually I'm gonna take this question. This is from Maxie Kubert. I'm gonna change this up a little bit because it's like, what's your feelings about Rosie and Idle Champions? But I want to change that to like, what was it like, that process of bringing Rosie into Idle Champions? Like when
Oh,
like you saw the artwork for the first time and everything.
I mean, it was crazy. We were all very familiar with Idle Champions, and when we found out that they were going to be our characters were going to be in a video game, we all kind of lost our minds. It was really cool. I'm not just to like preface, I'm not a huge Idle Champs player. I played when Rosie came out, I did play quite a bit. I find that it's my fault. Idle games are way too compelling for me, which is crazy, right? 'Cause they're supposed to be idle. But I got into like I had already like picked up and put down vehemently Cookie Clicker and
Oh
like
yeah.
all of them, like idle, and when it was Idle Champs, I was like, oh no, it's an idle game. This could be bad. I let it devour me for an appropriate amount of time. But yeah, when it comes to like what I remember about the process of creating Rosie was, it was delight. Like I just to be able to brainstorm like, okay, she has these abilities, what would they be? And so much research and support was done by the Idle Champs team that I just felt like I was being like carried like a beloved into this world. Like, do you like this little baby? And I was like, yeah. Yeah. So I never played it enough to know like how great she does in formations. And I'm sure it's like there's a meta and it
Yeah.
flexes and she gets all kinds of new stuff or whatever. I guess the answer to the question is I'm just happy she's there. I'm happy she gets to live in some people's
Yeah.
formations. I love that she gets a bonus for younger people in the party. I think that's really funny. Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm delighted by her.
Yeah, I make it no secret, even as a host of the show. It's just like most of the time, I just put my friends' characters into a formation. I'm like, I hope that works.
Yep. Every once in a while, I'll be like, look, man, look at all the sweet babies. Look at what they're doing. Yeah,
They're
I
hitting
get that, man.
things and throwing magic.
It's the whole C team. I could look at them adventuring whenever I want. Why don't I do that?
Hmm.
It's a really good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Actually, one of the, because like I have several of the formations going. One of them is always Ack Inc. people, like because like
Ah,
that's really what got me into D&D, and so I'm just like, oh yeah,
right.
I've got Jim and Omen and everybody in there.
Excellent. Excellent. Love it.
But we got to start wrapping things up because we got another show coming up after this. But Kate, thank you so much for taking time to talk with me today. This is so
Of
much
course.
fun.
It was delightful. That went so fast. I
50
thank
minutes.
you.
We just hang out and talk, you know.
I know. It's lovely. It's lovely. Thank you for the whole chat. Thank you for all the great questions. That was really fun.
If people wanted to find you and what you do on the interwebs, where could they do so?
Oh, they barely can.
That's
But
fair.
I am largely found on Instagram these days, which is Kate Welch with four H's at the end.
There you go. Yeah, my brain went totally blank there for a moment. Check out the skins for Rosie that we got going on. I think you can actually unlock the Beestinger skin doing something specific, but I can't remember what it is. So have some fun with Rosie and the rest of the C team. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Idle Insight. So until next week, take care of yourself.